with you once we are done with the session. Yes, I'm now recording. So let's go through the slides for lesson number 8. So here it says sustain oral interaction across a wide range of context and critically evaluate spoken text. That's slide number 1. And slide number 2 says, what is communication? So communication is sharing or exchanging of information, and the reasons for communicating is to interact, to inform, to find out, to influence, to regulate, to entertain, as well as to record. Okay, that's why I'm saying I won't be explaining these things, guys. I don't want to waste your time explaining such topics or such points. It's going to be a waste of your time. So the third slide says the communication process. There is the communicator. When it comes to the communication process, there is firstly the communicator who starts the communication process by conveying a message, and then there is the message. The message is that which the communicator wishes to convey. There is the recipient of that message who receives the message, interprets it, and also reacts. Okay, so by reacting, there is feedback. So the feedback is the reaction or the response from the recipient that can be conveyed verbally or by reaction. Okay, and then when we go to the next slide says various methods of communication. Okay, and then there are various methods of communication, which are written communication, verbal communication, uh, non-verbal communication, which will be explained on the next slide. Okay, so the next slide says okay, there's someone in the lobby. One second, guys. Let me just thank you. So written communication are printed messages which may be printed on or appear on the screen. Okay, just like the one we are using now. The slides are a form of written communication. And then communication that is not spoken or presented using emotions. Okay, that's written communication. So examples of written communication can be in a form of letters, memos, agendas, magazines, newspapers, contracts, written reports, etc. Okay, and then as we go to the next slide, we now dive into verbal communication. So verbal communication is communication that takes place over the phone or in person, and the message is oral. Okay, so examples of verbal communication, I'll just name a few because there's too many here. There's telephone, face-to-face talks, conferences, meetings, interview, briefing, informal discussions, consultations, mediation, arbitration, social groups, gossip, etc., etc. Okay, so like I said, I don't want to spend too much time reading everything there for you guys because it's just a simple topic, this one. And then when we go to slide number 7, okay, I was here, yeah. So when we go to slide number 7, still talks about verbal communication. And then in verbal communication, there's also an interview where you find an interviewer and then an interviewee, which can be formal or informal. So there are formal as well as informal interviews. Okay, so you must do research, have a list of possible questions, dress properly, be friendly, speak clearly, take your time, etc. So those are the things that you must do when you attend an interview or when you are about to conduct an interview. Okay, and then there are also meetings in verbal communication, which can be formal as well as informal. So you need to send out notice of the meeting, have an agenda, document meetings, appoint a chairman and a secretary or quorum. Okay, and then there are also debates and negotiations, which can also be formal as well as informal. So you must follow processes of the debate or negotiation. Okay, so with that being said, let's just dive through on the next slide, which still talks about verbal communication. So verbal communication, vocal characteristics. So these are the ways in which you need to sound whenever you are conducting verbal communication. So you must watch your tone. Tone is the sound of your voice, deep or bright tone. You must also take care of your pitch, which is the volume, which is determined by the tension on your vocal cords, which can be either high or low. Okay, as well as your pace whenever you are speaking. So, or the pace is rather your speed at which you speak can also influence your audience. Okay, whether you are doing an interview or you are addressing a large group of people, you must always take note of these verbal communication characteristics. Okay, and then as we move on to the next slide, the next slide talks about non-verbal communication, which is based on verbal cues. So examples of non-verbal communication are expressions, gestures, tone of voice, eye contact, body language, way you dress, walk, stand, react, respond, move your body, etc. So on and so forth. Okay, so I won't be reading everything there. And then there is also ways of identifying barriers to effective communication. Okay, so one of them, or let me just point out this list, which is number one, poor interpersonal skills, failure to identify the needs of the receiver, different cultural backgrounds, lack of intercultural understanding, messages with too much or little information, irritating mannerisms, insensitive or abusive language by the sender or receiver. Okay, so these are the barriers for ineffective communication. Okay, so when we go to the last slide for lesson number 8, it says uh, following strategies to capture audiences' attention. Okay, so you must repeat and emphasize keywords and phrases to stress their importance. Okay, whenever you want to use strategies in order to capture an audience, you must repeat and emphasize. And then number two, you must adjust the pace at which you speak to complement what you are saying, okay? As well as pausing. So pause for a second or two after saying something of importance to give the audience a chance to think about what you have said, okay? So these are the strategies in order for you to be able to capture the audience that you are addressing, okay? Whenever you are doing verbal communication. So, guys, that is basically the slides for lesson number 8. That's why I said I won't spend too much time on those slides. So we can just quickly dive through to lesson number 8, the workbook. So before I dive into that, are there any questions maybe regarding the slides? Remember that I'll be sharing the learner guide for you guys. So everything that is there on the learner guide will be shared with you. So just know that you'll be getting that learner guide. I'm just quickly going to the chat. I think I saw something on the chat. Okay, cool, not a problem. Okay, so let's just go to the formative questions, okay, so that we don't spend too much time on these activities. So on the formative, there's activity 1, activity 2, as well as activity 3. Okay. So for activity 1, we are basically dealing with interviews. So these are the instructions. Point number 1 says choose a sport, music, or movie star, or a politician that you would like to interview. Draw up a list of questions that you would like to ask this person. You have to list at least 10 questions. And then, thirdly, give the person's name and indicate whether it will be a formal or informal interview, and also where and when the interview will take place. Okay, so for this question, guys, you must choose or select a sport or movie star or a politician that you would like to interview, and remember that you will not obviously be literally going to interview that person. So you will be how can I put this, you'll be acting like you are going to interview such a person, but I will need the person's name, obviously, uh, where and when you will be doing that interview, whether it's going to be in an office, whether you are going to be interviewing them in a rally if it's a politician, whether you are going to be interviewing them in a restaurant, if it's a movie star or any sort of celebrity. So I just need the when and where you'll be doing the interview, and whether that interview will be formal or informal. And then you draft down the 10 questions that you will be asking that person. You don't need to give the responses for those questions, the type of responses that you expect them to give you. You just write down the 10 questions. So I'll need the name of that person, whether it's going to be an informal or formal interview, where and when you'll be doing that interview, and then the name of that person as well. And lastly, the 10 questions that you would like to ask that person. Okay, so just to give you guys an example, let me rather use an example that we are all familiar with, maybe a name that we are all familiar with in South Africa. Let's say you want to interview Cyril Ramaphosa, who is a politician. So you write down their name, Cyril Ramaphosa, formal interview, um, in a restaurant maybe, uh, and then you write down the 10 questions that you would like to ask Cyril Ramaphosa. Just the questions, no need to write the responses. So that's basically how you are going to go about answering this question. I hope we are clear on that one. Is there anyone maybe who has a question regarding this activity, so that maybe I can elaborate further, or we can try to assist as a group? But if we are all good when it comes to that one, can I just see a few reactions to show that you guys understand how to go about answering that question? Just a thumbs up. Thank you, Rahima Teresa Rubo. Okay, I think we are good when it comes to that question. So moving on to the next question, guys. So the next question says, um, refer to the examples in the learner guide and discuss the challenges of combating crime in your community. You can use the example provided and just unpack more key issues. Make sure that you use examples that are relevant to your community. You may do this as a group activity. So obviously you guys won't be doing this as a group activity. You'll be doing these things individually. You can go to the learner guide. I think this activity is on page 8, if I'm not mistaken. Can I just quickly go to the learner guide so that I can just confirm with you guys, because I think this thing is on page 8 of the learner guide. Yeah, it's this one. So when they're talking about the example on the learner guide, they're talking about this part, which is on page 8. Okay. So for this activity, you don't really need to obviously look at the learner guide when you want to answer this question. You can obviously do that if you want to refer to the example in the learner guide. But what I want from this activity is for you to unpack examples of certain crimes that are happening or that are relevant in your community, and then discuss the challenges of combating crime in your community. So you must list out the types of crimes that are relevant to your community. Okay, I cannot give examples there because I think you guys know better when it comes to the community that you are living in. So you can state 3 or 4 types of examples of crimes that are happening around your community, and then also give out the challenges of combating these crimes. Okay, so that's basically what I want for this activity. Okay, I think this one is a clear and simple one as well. Don't think there's anybody who's going to have a problem with this one. So at the end of the summative, I'll pause for a few minutes so that maybe if anyone has a question regarding a certain activity, we can discuss that together and see if the person is assisted and understands what to do for that activity. Okay. And then the next question says, What are the duties of a chairman during a formal meeting? Okay, so this one is quite simple. What are the duties of a chairman in a formal meeting? No need to elaborate further on that one. I think that one is quite simple and straightforward. And then for the next question, it says, for activity 2, it says name and describe 3 barriers of effective communication. Okay, and then so here you just name and describe 3 barriers of effective communication. We dealt with that on our slides quite briefly, so you'll find that on your learner guide as well as in your slides, or whenever you search for these answers on whichever site that you choose to. Okay, and then here the next question says, give an example of how cultural differences can cause a barrier to communication. Okay, so here you must just give an example. And then the next question says, give at least 2 examples of non-verbal clues that will tell you when someone in the audience is not paying attention. Okay, non-verbal clues. So that's the key word in this question. So give 2 examples of non-verbal clues that will tell you when someone in the audience is not paying attention. The next question is, give at least 2 examples of clues that will tell you when someone in the audience is paying attention. Okay. Then for the next question, it says, um, give 2 examples of ensuring continuity and interaction throughout your presentation. Okay. So here you just give 2 examples as well. So the last one says, the next one says, list 2 strategies that you can employ to capture the attention of an audience. Okay, simple one as well. And then when we go to activity 3, which is an observation. So activity 3 reads as follows, guys. I think for this one, we just gotta pay a little bit more attention so that it's gonna be easy for you guys to understand. Okay, so for activity
Sorry,
3,
sorry,
I
sir.
yes, ma'am.
While you were busy now, I was going through the document also so that I can make notes by the questions that you referred to. And it seems like there's a difference between the lesson that was the questions that or the assignment that were loaded in the one that you're presenting. The questions are somehow different. So maybe
On
you can just
the platform.
on the platform, yeah.
Okay. Um,
But it may, I don't know, it's fine with the rest. Then maybe we can just afterwards go make notes. But I thought maybe it will be easier to make notes while you're busy with the questions. Because
mm,
this one is talking about crime, intelligence, discuss the challenges of combating crime in your community.
let me just quickly go to the platform.
It's the lesson 8 formative, I think.
Yes, I'm in the lesson 8 formative. So it says I'm on activity 3 now on observation. And the one I was looking at is this one. It's activity 3 observation. It's just the difference is I opened it in Word. I didn't go to the platform to open it, but it's still rather the same thing. Because the second last question is list 2 strategies that you can employ to capture the attention of an audience. There's 2 strategies that you can employ to capture the attention of an audience. Same thing. 2 examples of ensuring continuity. Examples of ensuring continuity, so on and so forth. Okay, I don't think it's that far off. Maybe I wouldn't know what's the difference though, but I think they are
Can you just go up a little bit by your slides to question 1? Okay. How
This is
many
the first
questions? We have 3 questions.
on this one on activity 1 interview.
Yeah.
No, it's one question. It's just broken down into 3 parts. It's an explanation of the question actually. So let's quickly go to.
This one have 5 points. 5 points.
You see this one. It says choose a sport, movie, music or movie star, or a politician that you would like to interview. Draw up a list of questions that you'd like to ask this person. You have to list at least 10 questions, and then give the person's name and indicate whether it will be a formal or informal interview, and also explain where and when the interview will take place. Now review each stakeholder listed in the column 1. Ask the question, how important are the stakeholders' interest to the success of the proposed project? So when I go to this question, to the one that I was using to ask these questions, it says point number 1 says choose a sport, music or movie star or a politician that you would like to interview. Draw up a list of questions that you would like to ask this person. You have to list at least 10 questions. Give the person's name and indicate whether it will be a formal or informal interview, and also where and when the interview will take place. As you can see, it's basically the same thing. It's just that that last part where it talks about the stakeholders' interest to the success of the proposed project. That's the only part that's not there, but basically it's the same thing. It's just that here they've named them 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. But for the sake of you guys using the platform, let me just use the platform as well so that we can go through the activities using the platform. I think that's going to be better. Are we all right, Mrs. Rahima?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yeah, sorry, thank you.
Not a problem, ma'am. Thank you for that, though. So, in activity 3, it says, can I just quickly read this out and then I'll explain. In your group, have a debate about a controversial subject, such as our national soccer team's performance, or practicing safe sex to prevent HIV/AIDS, abortions, or any other subject that the members of the group have opposing views of. Divide the members of the group into 2 groups, for and against. The groups must be equal in number, which could mean that some of the members of the group have to take a side that they do not necessarily agree with. This is fine, it is only a role play. Key word here, it's a role play. Okay, so it says you have 30 minutes in which to select the group leader and prepare for the debate. The rules of the debate are as follows. Number 1, the leader of the group in favor of whatever the subject is speaks first. He or she gives a 3-minute talk about why he or she is in favor of the subject. Nobody may interrupt the speaker. The group on the opposing side must take notes of points they wish to challenge or ask questions about. Once the speaker is finished, one person from the opposing group asks one question or makes one statement about one point the speaker has made. Just that, nothing more. Nobody may interrupt while the person is talking. Make notes about statements you would like to ask questions on. The speaker has the opportunity to reply to the question or statement. Nobody may interrupt the speaker. Make notes if you have a question. Uh, then the leader of the group talks for 3 minutes about why he or she is against the subject. Nobody may interrupt the speaker. Once the speaker is finished, one member of the other group asks one question or makes one statement about one point the speaker has made. Just that, nothing more. Nobody may interrupt while the person is talking. Make notes about statements you would like to ask questions on. The speaker has the opportunity to reply to the question or statement. Nobody may interrupt the speaker. Now the member of each group each have one opportunity to ask questions of the other group. Each person is allowed one chance to ask a question or make an opposing statement. Nobody may interrupt another person speaking or make any comments while the person is speaking. Start with a member of the opposing group asking one question or making one statement. One member of the other group may reply. Then a member of the group in favor asks a question or makes a statement. A member of the opposing group replies. This process carries on until every member of each group has had an opportunity to ask a question and reply to a question or statement of the other group. Your facilitator will monitor the process. Everyone has to take notes of points that are important since you will be evaluated on your notes. Okay. And then as we move forward, I'll go back and explain. I just want us to discuss the entire activity together. So as we move forward, it says the facilitator or supervisor will also observe you while you are talking and evaluate you as follows. Okay, so this is the evaluation criteria for the facilitator. So point number one says responses show a clearly developed understanding of complex issues under discussion in one-on-one or group situations. One's understanding is clarified and further developed during discussions, and opportunity is provided during interactions for the clarification of one's understanding. Did you understand the issue under discussion? I have to tick yes or no for each and every individual. Did you listen to everyone's questions and answers to clarify your understanding of the matter? And then next one, let's skip this white part. Let's go to the question itself. When it was your turn to speak, did you handle the subject with sensitivity? Next one, in a matter that supports the goal, in a manner that supports the goal of your group. The next point says, did you put your own position forward with confidence in a way that was appropriate to the situation? Okay. And then the next one says, was your tone appropriate to the context? Was your style of talking appropriate to the context? Did you give the impression of aggression? Okay. And then moving on, I'm still going to go back so that we can discuss. I just want us to discuss the entire activity. And then after my evaluation, it says, consider the facilitator's evaluation and write down what the presenter should do differently next time. Okay. And then you need to place your answer here. Then the next one says, the underlying assumptions or points of view and subjects in spoken text are identified and challenged when appropriate to clarify understanding, remove bias, and or sustain interaction. Okay, and then you must write down the answer there for the underlying assumptions or the points of view in the spoken text. Okay, and then for question 3.3, it says you must have thought that one of the speakers had feelings about the subject that were not stated clearly. Consult your notes and state who the speaker was, what he or she said, and why you thought there were underlying meanings. Okay, and then you must state your response there. And then for the next question for 3.4, it says analyze your own responses to spoken text in relation to audience, purpose, and context. Identify inappropriate responses and adjust accordingly. Okay. And then for question 3.5, it says identify characteristics of a speaker's style and tone that attract or alienate an audience with reference to the particular effect of each feature in creating audience response. Question 3.6 says analyze the impact of non-verbal cues, body language, and signals on audiences and use appropriately. Okay. And then question 3.7, analyze the influence or rhetorical devices and use for effect on an audience. Pause, rhetoric questions, exclamation, analogy, emphasis, repetition, rhythm, use of inclusive or exclusive pronouns, stress, intonation, or the volume. So we must analyze those points when it came to whoever was talking. And then question 3.8 says identify techniques used by speakers to evade or dissipate responsibility for an issue and interpretations of the text reflect this insight. Okay. And 3.9 says describe the impact, example, clarity of purpose or speaker's capability, explained as well as charged. Okay. So, guys, going back up there where this activity 3 started, I'll just quickly go back to the chat. So as we can see that this activity requires us to conduct a role play amongst ourselves. So what I want to discuss with the group, because I do this differently depending if my class is a face-to-face type of a class or if it's an online class, especially for employed colleagues. So I conduct these sessions or this activity differently. So because this is gonna be a role play, I want to know from you guys, are you guys comfortable in doing a role play amongst yourselves, grouping yourselves amongst one another, and conducting this role play according to the rules that are stated in this activity? Or do you want to maybe create a role play amongst yourself, maybe create characters, and then generate this role play using an artificial intelligence of your choice, such as ChatGPT or Bard or Gemini, or whatever the case may be? Which one is going to suit you guys better? Because I can say it's going to be easier for you to generate a role play using artificial intelligence rather than sitting down and doing an actual role play and acting out, because I know that you guys are at work as well. You only meet during working hours. So I know it's going to be quite difficult. So I just seen a message saying generating using AI from let me just point out the person. Uh, from Klein. I'm not sure if it's Mrs. or Mr. Klein. S. Ferris and N. Freeman in attendance with me. Okay, thank you, Mr. Klein, that S. Ferris and Freeman is in attendance with you. So I guess all three of you guys have agreed that it's going to be easier generating it using an AI, artificial intelligence. I also prefer that, especially for working individuals, because I cannot expect you guys now to conduct a role play on Friday or whenever they give you guys that 2-3 hours free time. These things take a lot of time, so it's better when I generate role plays for individuals that I see face to face. I just give them a day or two to just make sure that they complete that role play preparation for those 2 or 3 days, and I give them the entire 3 days. You understand? They'll come in the next day. I give them the entire day. Just carry on doing your role play, and the day after as well. So I know you guys are working employees. You don't have that luxury of spending too much time like that in conducting such role plays. So I do understand Mr. Klein, who is in attendance with Ferris and Freeman, that they prefer generating this role play using an AI. So I just wanted to know from the other members if you are also comfortable with conducting this role play using an AI or any other site of your choice, obviously. As long, yes, Mrs. Rahima Rubo, I can
No,
see your hand is
sorry.
up.
I just wanted to do a thumbs up.
Oh, okay. Not a problem, ma'am. And then I also hope that others are also comfortable in conducting that role play using AI. So it's going to be quite an easy one, guys, because um, you will obviously, firstly, maybe uh, create names. Say it's your name, obviously, include your name there. Maybe you can also, just for the purpose of formalities, maybe you can also add 2 or 3 people from the class that are with us in this session. Okay, the people that are in our group, maybe add 2 or 3 of them, just to show that it was an actual role play. Okay, it's just that now it's been generated into a written communication type of a thing. So I would prefer that you include your name, the person who's going to be submitting that role play. Let's say Mrs. Rahima submits their role play. I'm just making an example. Let's say Mrs. Rahima is submitting her role play. She includes Alistair in her role play. She includes Mrs. Bezadane Holt in her role play. And then she includes another 3 people or another 2 people that she can just create, or imaginary names that she can create by her own. Okay, so it's going to be 4 people in that role play who are going to be part of Mrs. Raima's team, and then she also creates another 4 names that are going to be part of the other team who are maybe going to be against that certain topic. So let's say the topic is about abortions. I'm just making an example. Ne? So let's say the topic is about abortions. Mrs. Raima's team is going to be for abortions, that they agree with the notion that abortions should be conducted. And then the other 4 group members are against the notion that abortions should be allowed or should happen. Okay. And then after you've created those 4 names, then you read through everything here, obviously, and then you generate a role play. You can even copy everything like this and ask AI to generate a role play based on this type of uh, these type of points that have been given out to you here on your assessment. Okay, and then after you have generated that role play, okay, so for the formative assessment, so for this formative assessment, you will answer the questions that are there above that we started with, as well as activity 3. Okay, so in activity 3 you will end here after the role play. So after you are done with the role play, you submit your work, right? After submitting your work, I will grade your work as well as doing the evaluation criteria. Okay, so I will grade your work, the questions that are up there. I will mark your role play, and then I'll also evaluate it based on answering these evaluation questions. And then after answering these evaluation questions, I'll send back your work so that you can be able to complete the remainder of the formative assessment. So, because now you have to consider the facilitator's evaluation and write down what the presenter should do differently next time, so on and so forth. Because now from question 3.1 needs me to have sent you back the evaluation criteria with the role play that I've marked, and so on and so forth. So that's why I'm saying you will it's going to be easy, obviously, if you use AI to generate the role play, so it's not going to take you too much time. And I noticed that the questions that are up there are actually simple for you to answer, right? So you will generate the role play. After generating, send it back to me. I'll make sure that I mark it quickly. Like the work that you guys have submitted, I'll be marking from tomorrow afternoon around 5 6. I'm starting to mark. I think it's lesson 6 and 7. I'll be starting to mark. So after that, you do formative assessment number 8 or lesson 8. You submit the role play. I evaluate it. I send it back to you, and then you complete it by answering these questions after I've submitted it back. Okay, and then after you've answered these questions, and then you submit it for the last time, and then I'll grade it again for the last time. Okay, are we all clear? Are we all good when it comes to this role play? I think it's not gonna be a train smash. It's not gonna be anything difficult. I think you guys are gonna nail it. In fact, are we all good with the role play? No questions regarding the role play. Are we all sorted? Just a thumbs up, guys. Mr. Clean, together with Ms. Ferris and Freeman, are we all good that side? Mrs. Raima, are we good? Mr. Bezereno, are we good? Shani Klassen, Alistair, thank you. I don't see Mr. Dideriks today. Thank you, Klassen. Okay, so if we are all good with lesson 3, and remember that I'm also recording, so if maybe there's something maybe you still need more clarity on, you can just go back to our recording. Okay, so that was our formative assessment. That's the end of our formative assessment, right? So let me quickly go to the summative assessment. You see, this is the reason why I was using a Word document, because no network can be another thing for loading and stuff like that. So anyway, let's go to the summative assessment. So a summative assessment is going to be quite simple. Uh, Summative is quite simple and short. So for the summative assessment, first question, question number 1 for 10 marks says, list a range of written and oral communication techniques in the workplace. Okay, so just a list for 10 marks. So it's things like emails, reports, meetings, presentation, telephone calls, video calls, memos, workshops, feedback forms, yeah, so on and so forth. So just list those type of things, those type of communication techniques that are used in the workplace. Okay, not in your workplace, but in the workplace generally. So okay, so the next question says, okay, yeah, summative only has that one question for 10 marks, and then we dive through to the workplace activity. Okay, so for the workplace activity, it says prepare a 15-minute presentation on PowerPoint or any presentation software, briefing your management or company on the project you have selected or propose. Please motivate why you have selected the project. Okay, and then there's a note. It says please also provide the information on required stakeholders, the budget, the duration of the project, and the objective of the project. Okay, so you can either use PowerPoint to submit this presentation of yours. Other people prefer to use Canva. Is a site that generates presentations quite easily and they look very nice, called Canva. You can also use Canva for this PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so it's basically you drafting a presentation for briefing your management or your company on a project you have selected. So you must choose a project of your own choice and draft a presentation, something that's going to be like a 15-minute presentation on PowerPoint or Canva or any other software of your choice. But I'll obviously need to be able to open that PowerPoint presentation or that Canva presentation and be able to grade it. Okay, because I'll need to see it here attached as your reference or as your attachment, your workplace activity, and be able to grade it accordingly. Okay, so I think this one is also quite simple. I think you can also even find an example of a PowerPoint presentation on certain projects on the internet. If maybe you don't want to stress too much about creating your own, I think you can find a couple of PowerPoint presentations on the net and paste them here as your feedback or as your answer. Okay, so basically that's the end of the workbook, and make sure guys to always fill in the logbook. Okay, make sure when you submit the summative, always fill in your logbook. Okay, so with that being said, are there any questions regarding the lesson number 8? Are there any questions regarding lesson number 8 before I quickly move on to lesson number 9? Lesson number 9 is quite short. It's just a formative assessment, nothing much. Okay, don't think there's any questions regarding lesson number 8. So let's quickly go to lesson number 9. The slides. Okay, so here it says slide number 1. Also, you for lesson number 8, workplace activity, you can create something like this, okay, but make sure it has colors, it has some pictures, because this one is now for conducting sessions. You can see it's just dull and just words and stuff like that. But for your presentation that you are going to be presenting to your management or your company for the project that you are proposing to them, make sure that you include some pictures or colors and stuff like that. Okay, it's going to look nicer when you do it like that. So anyway, let's go to slide number 1 for lesson number 9. It says write and present for a wide range of purposes, audiences, and contexts. Okay, slide number 2. You guys know I don't spend too much time on these slides. Don't want to waste your time on explaining such simple things. So slide number 2 says different reading strategies. Check features that catches the eye. Skimming, let your eyes run over the complete text without trying to understand every word. Scanning, when you're looking for a specific word, like scanning a specific word in the dictionary, as well as studying text in detail. Okay, so these are just different reading strategies. And then there's also identifying main ideas. When one reads, you try to understand the main idea of the document or the paragraph. This can be done by underlining keywords or phrases, encircling important ideas, highlighting the parts that are important, numbering key ideas. Then sometimes you need to summarize these main ideas, like doing a mind map, tables, flowcharts, bullets, or point summary. Okay, as well as for understanding the meaning of a context that you are reading. There can be an explicit message which is stated clearly, exact, and obvious concepts that are very specific and not open to interpretation. Um, there's also implicit messages which are expressed in an indirect way, as well as there is a hidden message behind them for implicit messages. Okay, and then there's also socio-cultural back beliefs. In workplaces, we have different beliefs. We use different jargon to communicate, which certain groups can only understand. There are also things like idioms, which are phrases that have figurative meaning. Over the moon is an example of an idiom. We all have heard that one. There are jargons as well, which are terminologies used in different fields, like doctors, they have their own jargon, so on and so forth. So I'm saying I'm not going to explain these slides, guys. I know everyone knows what jargon is. There are also proverbs, which are real sayings popularly told. For example, a tree is known by its fruit. Of a Zulu origin, this means that success is shown by the deeds of a person. Okay. So anyway, with that being said, the next slide goes by saying questioning techniques. In order to understand the real meaning of something, you can ask the following questions: who, what, when, where, and how. And then there are also structural features of a text. So there is white space, underline, italics, boldface, color, boxes, size, capitalization, title, as well as the heading in a text for you to be able to understand it much better. Okay, and then here we have been given a diagram which is used to show us how to summarize information. Can be done by charts or diagrams. So here we have been given a chart to summarize the population of the country. As you can see, these are the different towns that we are having in South Africa. Towns or cities, Cape Town, yeah, these are towns actually. So anyway, we have been given a population for each and every town, how populated is it, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this is another way of summarizing information, which can be done by charts as well as diagrams. Okay, then for the last slide, or this, yes, it's the last slide, it says editing as well as proofreading. So when you are editing or proofreading, you look out for typos and spelling. A good tip here is to read backwards. you'll go much more slowly, okay, because you'll be focusing on each and every individual word, okay. And then there are clumsy sentences and confusing or misleading phrasing. Try reading your work aloud, okay. So whenever you are editing or proofreading, try reading the work aloud so that you can tell that it makes sense or doesn't make sense, okay. And then there's also unnecessary words. Another point is commonly misused or confused words. The last one, it says, if you are not 100% sure about a spelling, double check with a dictionary. Okay, so always do that whenever you are editing or proofreading. Okay, so with that being said, guys, let's just quickly go through the formative assessment for lesson number 9. So for lesson 9, should I go here again? Let me use the platform so that it's better for everyone, guys. So it's quite a simple one, guys. That's why we decided to combine them, because it's also a part of the communication process. It's basically the same topics. So activity 1, discussions, has question number 1 says, list at least 3 examples from your own experience where you used different reading strategies. Okay, so that's a simple one as well. No need to dive too much in that. You can say scheming, scanning, summarizing, whatever the case may be. Just 3 examples, okay. And then for activity 2, it's a discussion. So activity 2 says, there's an article link there. It says a quality control plan refers to the techniques and activities that are used to control that a product or service remains consistent to the requirements and specifications pertaining to quality. For successful project management, the quality process must be integrated into all phases of the project. It's necessary for me to read the whole thing. Okay, let's just read the whole thing and see what it says. There's the feasibility study. In the preliminary study phase, quality will depend on the studies that are conducted in order to clearly state the objectives of the project and also provide a clear assessment of the customer expectations. Quality control plan will also be concerned on whether the solutions which are provided are coherent at every stage of the project. There is also the implementation stage. The quality control at this stage consists of the verification of the methodology used, and on the other hand, to make sure that everything is done as per the specifications. And then there's the test phases. The test phases consist of verifying, on one hand, the smooth working of applications delivered, and on the other hand, the match between the functions performed by these applications and functions specified in the requirements. And then there's also the control aspect. Effective control systems should be put in place to ensure that everything is in place. It is, however, important that the test is really adapted to the project. There is the step by independent person. During the test phase, it is important to repeat some tests at random by another person to limit the risk of error. And then lastly, there is the control of remedial efforts. The anomalies detected during the test phases should give rise to a correction in terms of configuration and development. New tests should then take place within the framework of the quality process to ensure that the corrections work. Okay, simple one there. So the questions are as follows. So for question number 2, it says, use any of the techniques mentioned in the previous activity to identify the main ideas in the text above. Okay, so you must use any techniques that are mentioned in the previous activity, which is scheming, scanning, whichever technique that you prefer to use or that you wrote down when you were talking about the reading strategies that you have used before. Remember, I mentioned is scheming, scanning, as well as summarizing. So you can use any of those techniques to identify the main ideas in the text above that we have just read. Okay. And then for activity number 3, we have been given this sort of a diagram or whatever this is. And then we are given these questions. What features of the text influenced your reading as well as understanding for this text that's above here? You can say maybe it's uh, describe, you must just describe the elements of the brochure, like the headings, the images that help you understand the context. You see the implicit meaning in the context, determine if there is a hidden message or an underlying message, whatever the case may be. Okay, so what features of the text influenced your reading as well as your understanding? And question number 3.2, it says, is there an implicit meaning to the message? Okay, so you must determine if there is a hidden message or an underlying message in that brochure. And then going down to question 3.3, it says, was there any jargon used? So you must identify any specialized terms or jargon that has been used in that brochure up there. And then for the next question, which is question 3.4, it says, was the technique of questioning used to improve your understanding? So you must reflect if asking questions helped you understand better. Okay, for an example, if you were reviewing a brochure for a local business in Durban, note how its layout and images influenced your comprehension and whether any industry specific terms are used. Okay, so for an example, this brochure that is up here, you must note how its layout and images influence your comprehension. Okay, so it's basically that for question 3.4. Yeah, we're on 3.4. And then for activity number 4, we have that cute dog down there. And then it says, study the advertisement on the next page and answer the following questions. Here is the advertisement right there. As you can see, they have some big bold writing there with a bone and whatever. And then for question 4.1, it says, what was the first thing you noticed? Okay, so you'll answer according to that. And why? On next question 4.2, it says why. Why did you notice that first thing? And then for question 4.3, describe how the following is used to get the message across. Language, symbols, pictures, objects, font size, font types, different colors, and layout. Sorry, so you must describe how the following aspects are used to get the message across. Okay, so for the next question, which is activity number 5. So activity number 5 says that read the text below and answer the following questions. Okay, so here is the text there below. Let me not reread again. As you can see, my voice is already turning up. So you must just read this text below here, and then you answer these questions here. It's just 2-3 questions. Who would be interested in reading information of this kind? Who is the target audience of the type of information which is above on this text? Okay. And then for what purpose would you use this information? Okay, straightforward. And then 5.3 says, summarize the information in a format suitable for the use you identified in question 2. Okay, i.e. in a table form, mind map, point summary, or bullet format. Whichever way you want to summarize it like that, whether you use a table format, a mind map, a point summary, or certain bullets in order to write down the important points that you identified in the text above. Okay, and then question activity number 6 says, draft a letter. So draft question 5.3, draft a letter to your manager questioning, or rather, draft a letter to your manager requesting to be transferred to another city or town. Use a red pen and edit the letter. Rewrite the letter, first and final draft. So I will need two letters for this activity, which is going to be your first draft and then the final draft, which has the first draft. Remember, is going to have those red uh, corrections or whatever it is. You may use a red pen to edit that letter, and then you must rewrite it and then submit the first draft, which has those red pen corrections, and then the final draft, which you have completed. So you must just draft a simple letter to your manager requesting to be transferred to another city or town. Okay, so just a short letter, 50 words, 100 words. Don't let it be too long. Okay, just a short letter. Just want to see the preciseness of you being able to convey a message in a written format. Okay, and how straightforward are you when you want to convey that message in a written format? That's the only thing I want to see for that letter. So that is the end of the formative assessment. So when it comes to lesson number 9, formative assessment, does anyone have any question? Is there anything that is not clear? If not, if we are all good, can I kindly see that we are all good by a show of thumbs up? If we are all good with lesson number 8 as well as lesson number 9. Okay, thank
Sorry,
you.
sorry, sir, just to make sure,
Yes, ma'am.
this PowerPoint presentation,
Yes, ma'am.
we can use our own project also now.
You can use your own project as well, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. You can use your own project if you want to start it from the beginning. You can do a PowerPoint presentation from scratch, or if maybe you know that the type of business you are thinking of, there's already a PowerPoint presentation on the internet. If you copy that one and paste it as your workplace activity, that's also going to be acceptable.
Okay, and this is the only, as I noticed, this is the only place where we use our project, not like our usual other assignments. It's kind
No,
of different.
yes, ma'am. Yeah, you can just use your own project here. For this presentation, you just use your own project.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anybody else who has a question, maybe?
In what the presentations, ne? We wanted to know, do you also want to see us in the presentation recording, or can we like put our cameras off?
For this presentation?
Yeah.
No, you can put your cameras off or on. It depends with you. The thing is, my laptop, the camera has a problem. So even if I switch it on, it doesn't appear. My face
Oh,
wouldn't appear.
so
So that's why.
it's not
Pardon?
necessary to put your it's not necessary for you to see us while we present.
No, you mean for these type of sessions the current session that we are busy with?
Yes.
No, it's not
No,
necessary. But then
no,
if you do want to show your face, then you can show your face. It's not a problem.
no, I mean with the workplace activity, the 15 minutes presentation.
No,
Do we
with
also need to present it, or can we just upload?
you can only upload. You just upload the PowerPoint presentation.
Or we don't need to present.
No, you don't need to present it. Just
Ah,
upload the PowerPoint presentation.
all right, nice. Thank you.
Okay, not a problem, man. Anybody else who has a question? Thank you, Mrs. Rahima, for that. Okay, so far so good. I think we are all good. We are all sorted. So thank you guys so much for taking your time to be part of the session. Whenever you need any clarity regarding the work that was being discussed, you can just hit me up on my WhatsApp and I'll be able to assist you. and I hope you guys stay safe and keep well. So we'll communicate on our next session, which is going to be our support session. But remember, as soon as you are done with the role play, just send it through so that I can be able to evaluate it and send it back to you so that you can finish the last part after the evaluation. Okay. So thank you guys so much for everything. Take care, guys. Stay safe. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, ma'am.